It's okay, I don't need it, I can care of, I can
Or I
it
can
later.
pull them up,
It was just, if you had it.
You want to take
Except
it?
Oh, from last time? Yeah. Who's got it?
There you go.
I'm sorry, I carried stuff like
That's
that.
what I should have. I meant to bring it.
Just in case there's a question.
Okay.
I did this morning and he said I will be there.
And then Erica's running a couple minutes late.
Okay. The Tracy said he'd be here.
Yep.
So I appreciate that Mr. Gooch told me we could get this all done today.
You do have there's no rules against that.
I think that's the best way to.
There's other public bodies that do it in one night. But
Well, I just want to make sure you understand that
it's up to you.
It's never been more than one night.
on the 17th. So Kyle, you and I, on the 17th, we're over there at 5, and then we come over here at 6.
Oh, well, yeah.
What,
on the 17th?
Yeah.
What are the green ribbons for?
Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
There's a whole basket of ribbons.
There is.
I was thinking St. Patrick's Day, but then it's May, so I was very confused.
For anybody that wants to know, it's National Foster Care Month.
Okay.
It is.
Is that green as well?
Foster Care Month.
Put that in the record.
Is
Oh, that's
that green as
No,
well?
it's
Is that the
It's
color?
a cyan blue.
Okay. Okay.
We should do like a proclamation next year.
Foster Care Month?
Yeah.
Sure.
Does the city do one?
Huh?
Does the city do one, or?
A proclamation? No. I did one.
Get you on
We
the
often
radar.
get them from the state. Yeah. I haven't coordinated enough to try to do something.
You could go
That
to
would
a
be good.
meeting and
Do we
read
have
the
a-
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we expecting Tracy?
No,
I know
Yeah.
Marcus is totally different.
Chris, you want me to grab this?
Oh, sure, thank you. Oh, wait, I've got one in here. I forgot it's in the back of the budget bag here.
So can I look at this?
I'm gonna be writing all of these things.
No, I brought that as a paper.
So Scott, remind me, after we do the elections, then I turn it over to whomever, right?
Yeah, typically the welcome and introduction is just kind of everybody's act.
I wondered if they got your, in the budget.
The
if they
floor is
printed
open
your,
for, the budget committee to nominate the positions.
Okay.
And after that, you'll pass the gavel. or
No, I am not.
Maybe
That's the best part of the job.
you might be the chairperson, so maybe you hold the gavel.
No, I've got one already, good.
You do have a
Board's name
quorum,
and
so you can start
Okay.
if you want, or you can wait
It's
for
a
Tracy.
one-car drive, I don't know.
One more minute.
Yeah,
That
well, that clock's not,
That's not our technical clock.
no,
No,
I
it's three
do
after.
like that fine.
That's why they act like that.
Yeah.
They were like it too.
All right, we'll give him one more minute. Does somebody maybe want to just, because we haven't talked to Tracy, just reach out to him real quick?
Darren talked to him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
We were.
first thing this morning, yeah.
Understood.
You see, the budget has got me in there as vice president. When
Oh.
Celeste is the vice president, so we gotta throw the budget out.
Yeah. Gotta go home.
Board positions don't matter anyway, so.
We gotta-
Wait,
For this governing body. is what I mean.
Stop that.
That was last year.
All right,
Last year I was.
we'll wait on
Oh, okay.
Tracy to join us later,
Tracy's
but
right there.
fabulous.
There it is.
Bang the gavel in 2 seconds.
Thanks,
You got that note?
Are we doing pledge of allegiance? It's not on your agenda there, Skylar.
We're all here.
That's
I
know, not all of us on time.
That's
You
okay.
know why we're all here?
Why are we all here?
We're all there.
Oh, that's true.
All right, Tracy, don't sit down. Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you to our new Budget Committee members for joining us. My name is Catherine Parker. I'm the current board president. I've been on the board, I don't know how long, 3 years, 2 years. How long have I been doing this? Too long. Yeah.
Well, don't say
I have a
that.
question. Do we have to swear in the new budget committee members?
No.
Okay, good. They look honest.
No
Yeah.
swearing, no swearing.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this a nice mellow meeting,
Yeah.
Mike.
Okay.
Passing the baton to you, Mike, go ahead.
To me?
Yeah. Oh, and your sign is wrong too. Darren.
I was working off of old information.
I fixed it.
He has been pointed.
Passing the baton to me?
Yeah,
more than
introduction,
once.
introduce yourself.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm just Michael Hinton, and, I'm past vice president of the board, and director number 2 or 3, I can't remember which number I am.
And you've been with us a long, long time. You're our fountain of information.
Hopefully good.
All right.
I'm Celeste Bonner. I am the vice president of the board of directors. And this is what, I think maybe my third year? I'm going into my third year, I think. Maybe. Is that right?
Time flies.
Especially up in COVID.
I know.
It all blends together.
Okay.
All right, go Sue.
I'm Sue Coddington. I have been here for whatever number of years. I think this is my 3rd to 4th year, right?
I think this is your 3rd budget cycle. Yeah, same with Celeste.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what would you like to know?
That's good.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Erica.
Erica Marshall. I started the same time as Celeste, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was on,
I'm like, am I going great?
she was on the budget committee for 1 year before you guys joined the
right.
board.
Okay.
Jamie. I'm Jamie. I'm on budget committee.
Long-time community member. Go ahead, Tracy.
Tracy McDonald. I heard that you had a new sign, so I thought I'd show up for that. Very much. Budget committee member, community member. Used to work there, so.
I'm Kyle Gorman, first-time budget committee member.
Norm Brown, my second, budget cycle.
Thank you. Well, appreciate everybody being here. We are now going to elect the chairperson, vice chair, and secretary of the budget committee. So anybody is open to make nominations for those positions. The vice chair and secretary can be the same person. We only want to make 2 nominations.
Chair, vice chair, secretary.
Yes. Chair, vice chair, secretary, or chair, vice chair / secretary.
Right, okay.
Gosh, well, you know, we've got some experience here. I nominate Norman Brown to be chairperson.
Second?
Yeah. Oh, darn, I want to say.
I'll nominate you.
Well, any other nominations before we take a vote?
You want it, Tracy?
You do nice work.
Okay.
I really appreciated Chairman last year. I didn't have to meet her last year.
We'll pass that on.
You did a good job.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Norman Brown for chairperson and a second. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. We're just going to go around the line. Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
Yes.
Sue?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Jamie?
Yes.
Tracy?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Norman? Yes, you do have to vote, please.
No abstentions.
No,
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Now we need a vice chair and or a secretary person. Any nominations? I nominate Tracy for vice chair.
Okay. Someone is taking notes, right?
Yes.
Here's the note.
All I have to do is sign, right?
Hope I don't get sick.
Okay. Do we want to combine the vice chair and secretary? I'm fine with that.
We did last
Tracy's
year.
fine with that, yeah. Okay, so we have a nomination and a second for vice chair and secretary for Tracy McDonald. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Michael?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Tracy?
I don't have much choice.
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Norman? Norman, did you say aye?
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. I am now turning the gavel over.
If I stepped up, Sue.
Yeah, there you go, you're in charge, you're meeting us.
Okay, so if we look to the budget agenda, if I got that wrong, or not, if I got it right, I'll check on page 2. We've done the call to order, we've done the welcome introductions, we've elected, so now we are ready to receive the budget message. Who's going to lead us through the budget message?
You're gonna have the three musketeers over here that will be working together to share information. So, before we start, I just wanted to say, thank you all for serving on the budget committee. It's really, nice to have such a great group of community members and volunteers that are helping with us. I'm Skylar, I think I know everybody, and I have Darren and Chris here. This is kind of our first year with this new organizational structure where we have our finance manager, but we also have the director of operations, and they work really well in tandem together. And with me, we have prepared and invested a lot of time into working on this budget, so I hope you'll find it to be presentable. The way that we have done this meeting in the past is going to continue this year with some changes, but we have a presentation that we'll run through, and you can look at the presentation, you can look at us, or you can just look at there's a lot of information and numbers to pour through. After we get through with the presentation, the slides, then we'll kind of go through each budget individually, not line by line, but kind of draw your attention to what we feel like are the key differences, the noticeable changes and things that we want to make sure you're aware of. And then at the conclusion of that, we'll go back to the agenda and I'll turn the time over to you, Mr. Chairperson, for questions that you might have, public comment, and then discussions about what's next for the budget committee. And like was mentioned earlier, you do have the option of approving the budget at in one meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, but it does need to be done in a fairly timely fashion because we have constraints on when the board needs to adopt the budget and we have to submit it to the county, et cetera. Any questions?
Just a question. It came up in the meetings last year that perhaps we run a little too long on 1 or 2 meetings, so do we have kind of an agreed upon hard stop or preferred end time?
So, last time we had our regular board meeting and then the budget committee, so we have separated them so that.
Good idea.
Yes, because it was a long night. Yeah, so as far as a hard stop.
I mean, I think
But
some
that's-
people
but
have
that's where
families
we-
to get home to
Yeah.
and children, so
Yeah,
shall we say 7:30 or?
yeah.
Well, the other thing is, we can have another meeting, right?
Yeah.
So then we just,
So if we
Yeah.
hit the hard stop and we're not done?
yeah,
we
we
can
just
start
start
over.
over.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
I
with
think
that
our
in mind?
the staff part of the meeting will take 30 to maybe 40 minutes. I think we will be pretty succinct in our remarks.
Folks, you can keep it moving along.
Yeah.
I'll try. And also, we've got some snacks in case you need refreshment over there, beverage or food. All right. So, can you move that one over here, just so I can, I can't see behind me, which slide I'm on. You can think about that.
That's perfect when I did that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
But this is really drawing me.
Oh, you got a little in the top.
Oh, cheers. I think it's great.
I know.
Yeah, exactly, that's why.
I think mine was like a cold maybe. Really had like a puffer jacket.
It's totally different.
All right. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the accomplishments that we feel like the district has had for this fiscal year, which is 2021 to 2022. It gets really confusing for me, the numbers, sorry. And then budget considerations for next year. Just an overview of the district, and you'll find this in the first part of your budget packet. It's fairly consistent with other information that's been available previous years and what most of you probably are aware of. The district was formed in 1969, and our programs is the main reason why we exist. We don't have a lot of park space inventory, and that's fairly common for special districts throughout our state. Some have lots of park inventory, some have no park inventory. We're a park district that has very little park inventory, but we do have an abundance of programs, and we kind of divide that programming into three categories: aquatics, recreation, and youth programs. And then you'll see a list of our facilities. So Sunset Pool, the fitness center. New over the past year or so is the Sunset Recreation Center. We have the admin building, which used to be called the youth center, but we're using more for administrative functions right now. Community center, this building that we're in right now. The Playhouse, Mary Blake Playhouse, which is right across the street, and then Broadway Field. Currently, we have 10 full-time staff and 65 total employees, so 55 part-time staff working for the district. One of the main distinguishing features of a special district is that we're a standalone government entity, similar to a city or a county, but just set up for a special purpose. And there's park and rec districts throughout the state. This is just a small sampling of some of those districts, but there's other types of special districts that are enacted by the ORS that provides them with authority to tax the residents of their district and provide specific services. So there's water districts, there's road districts, there's sanitary districts, there's park and recreation, etc. We could go on. Fire, yeah, fire is definitely a big one. So you see how our tax rate kind of compares to other, some of our counterparts throughout the state. It's important to know that this isn't the only consideration that makes up the budget or how a district might receive their revenue. Lots of districts have other revenue generation, like systems development charges, or they have partnerships with cities, counties to provide some of the funding back to the special district. So it just kind of depends, but I like that we're sort of smack dab in the middle of our tax rate being 92 cents a thousand. You can see over the past, I guess like 17 years or so, the budget, just the overall size of our budget is trending upward. And I think that's for lots of reasons that we can cover later. But the budget that you're going to have presented to you is, I think, the largest budget that we've ever had, just in terms of the dollar amount and what we're hoping to accomplish. Our revenue generates from the following sources. We have property taxes, timber tax, we receive donations and grants, program fees, and then facility rentals. And if you're a visual person, you can kind of see the breakdown. The biggest chunk, obviously, is from property taxes. We also have a very healthy, this year, and we'll talk more about why, net working capital or a carry forward from previous years. And then you see the revenue broken down into other areas of what we're expecting to receive this upcoming budget cycle.
So, pardon me, Skylar, what's the light blue section in the lower section?
This one?
Yeah.
This is our carry forward.
Oh, that's carry forward.
Yeah.
That's ending fund balance.
Yeah. So yeah, it's typically a little bit smaller, but because of some things that happened this year in the way, we wanted to project forward into the year. And again, we'll share a little more detail about that. As far as expenses, our total expenditures are listed right there, so a little above $2.7 million. Expenses, again, same budget presentation, categorization as last year in how the budget is divided, but there's administration, maintenance, aquatics, community center, recreation, special events, and then youth programs. And the majority of those budgets all receive revenue from the services that they provide, with the exception of administration and maintenance, because those are not revenue generating budgets. But the rest of them do. Sorry, forgot to do my flash forward. And here you can see kind of the expense breakdown of the chart and where it goes. And again, more to come on this. Other expenditures will be fund transfers. So we have a couple of different special funds, and then a contingency fund that we allocate some of our resources to as well. just to go a little more in depth on the transfers that we'll be expecting, so we have a capital improvement fund, and that's, I think that's the one that's pretty flexible in how we can save money there and use it for different facilities, different types of projects that may come up. We obviously have the Sunset Recreation Center, and that's, we'll talk more about that, but that's been it's been a great year of being able to at least partially program in that center, use the space for providing great programs for our youth and some of our recreation programs. We also found a tenant, so there's been some really positive developments, but we're transferring or planning on transferring a healthy amount from the general fund to that Sunset Recreation Center fund. And then we have the Broadway Field Fund. And I think most of you probably are aware of this, but the district doesn't own Broadway Field, but we work in partnership through an agreement with the City of Seaside and the school district to operate the field, and we schedule it. We're tasked with maintaining the field as best we can. One of the other I guess contingencies for consideration is that we have funds set aside for field replacement should the need come up to replace the field, and it is coming up eventually. So just to make sure that we're complying with that part of the agreement, we're planning on transferring $30,000 to the Broadway Field Fund sometime in the next fiscal year. So I want to just kind of talk a little bit about the great work that's been done by who we have here and our staff as well. So our board of directors, this has it's been really awesome, and since I started, it's the first year. We've actually had more than that, almost 2 years now, where we've had full board continuity, and I'm really thankful for that. It's made a big difference in my work and also the work of the district, as we've been able to move things further along, have great relationships, and I think we're just operating at a higher level than we were before, when we were having kind of a pretty constant churn of directors. It seemed like every couple of months we'd be doing interviews and replacing somebody and then bringing them up to speed, etc. The board had participation at the ORPA conference and at the SDAO conference. They've given, I haven't tracked their hours yet this year, but I usually try to go back through, I would say, I don't know, 500 hours probably, if you put them all together, of their time at board meetings, through participation in committee work, and just doing other things, being available to myself and to staff for questions, and that's really great. They support and involve themselves with the district as much as they're able and help us shape policy. That's really the function of the board, and I think they're functioning really well. Personnel-wise, as far as some changes that I think are significant, we created a new position this last fiscal year, or the current fiscal year. It's a HR position, so it's a Human Resource and Administrative Coordinator, and that person's been employed since late January. She's doing really wonderful, helping us recruit and onboard staff, but also lifting kind of some of the admin duty functions from myself and some from the other key staff. This happened late fiscal year, but I don't think we had it really announced during our previous budget, but we hired a new aquatics coordinator and a new youth programs coordinator, Lindsay and Aaron, respectively, and they're doing really well. I think it was like September that Chris McAllister came on board as our finance manager, and he's doing terrific. This is his first run from this perspective as a staff member working on the budget, and I think he's probably learned some great lessons. This is our first full year of this new organizational structure, so we redid our structure, and I think there's an org chart in your packet, but has the board of directors on top, obviously, and then myself, and then 3 director positions that were created to kind of help us, I guess, accomplish more and work in better teamwork together. And like I said before, we have 65 total employees. This is like hurting my neck a little bit from the stand. Okay, some other highlights, not necessarily staff related. There's been a lot of things that it's hard to put them all on to one slide, but not necessarily a highlight, but I think something that will help tell the story of this last year is it's just been a really significant challenge for us as well as most businesses, just recruiting and retaining staff. That HR position is certainly helping us in our efforts. But as you all know, with our community, the dynamic that we have with COVID, with lack of affordable housing and other considerations, it's certainly a challenge. We transitioned our youth programs to the Sunset Recreation Center in March of last year, so this is their first full year in that space, and I think they're really thriving. We have waiting lists for all of our programs. Our summer camp sold out last year and was pretty much sold out within a few days of opening registration for this upcoming summer. As much as we can increase capacity, I think there's obviously a significant need there in our community. We have returned our aquatic program, so there was a long period of this last year that we weren't able to offer our full aquatic package and all of our programs with swim lessons and fitness classes and things, but those have, generally speaking, just about all returned at capacity. We haven't gotten to weekend hours yet, but that's really hopefully the last box that we have to check. And then we've also resumed our dryland fitness programs and expanded some new opportunities with open gym sports for basketball, pickleball, and volleyball most recently. We've increased in meals served at the senior meal site, so that's been really positive, and I'm really, I guess, thankful that we're still able to reach that part of our community, because I think there was great concern when we started going to a drive-up meals experience that we would lose touch with our senior population, that they wouldn't have some of those human connections that they need, and that they wouldn't be getting healthy meals. So happy that they're still having access to that. I think our special events have really turned up over the last year or two with the help of Melissa Ousley, and she's done a really great job of kind of honing in on some events and really, I think, fine-tuning them and getting sponsorships, and I think they're really, we have a strong special event kind of catalog to offer. But sensitive, so another highlight, we are going through a strategic planning process for the Sunset Recreation Center, and we just received the results of that a couple of weeks ago, so that's going to be really important as we move forward into the next year. Over the past year, we obtained a tenant for the SRC, that's the Northwest Regional Education Service District, so they're leasing about 15% of the building right now, and that's been a great partnership for us and provided some revenue into the budget that's been needed. This is the first year since the Hirsch Family Training Facility is open. That's the indoor batting cage, so another kind of highlight for the year. And we don't necessarily track the attendees or the usage of that building, but I know anecdotally and from the parking experience and other evidences, getting a lot of use, and it's very much needed in our community. We were awarded a lot of grants. I don't know if I could have the number written down somewhere, but because of Melissa's expertise as a grant writer, Darren also helps us with grants. I think we've been really aggressive and active in pursuing granting opportunities. And then the other thing that's impacted that is there was a lot of funds that were released either from the state or from the federal government that helped us with COVID relief, COVID reaction, basically to help offset some of what we experienced as a government agency trying to provide services. So that's been really helpful this year. We've gone through, it's been actually probably about 18 months or so since we started this big migration process with a lot of our software. We did our financing, our accounting software. That was done prior to last year's budget, and then this year we worked really hard on ExecuTime, which is our payroll system, and then we're transitioning over the next probably a couple months to a point-of-sale software as well. So lots of different stuff kind of behind the scenes that not everybody sees or understands, but I think it's going to really bring the district up to speed in a place that we weren't necessarily before. And then I think this is the last highlight. We had a great partnership with the Warming Center that was with two nonprofits and our foundation, but district staff supported the Warming Center by providing meals, and then we provided shower vouchers to those that stayed there. I think after seeing lots of discussion about this, I was glad that we were able to step into that space and actually provide some services. Okay, sorry. So just some general information as we're going to dive into the specific budgets. Like I said, I'll do an overview on the slides upcoming, and then we'll do a more detailed look after that. But we have a total assessed valuation of 9 million, so that's 2 billion.
Oh, very nice
Okay, thanks.
performance.
31 million.
I almost said 2 trillion, I was like, 2 trillion. And you can see it's a 6% increase from previous year, so attributed to assessed value going up, and then also more homes, even though there's still a lack of affordable homes and homes in general in our area. There has been an increase in construction and that type of thing. Permanent tax rate for the district is 92 cents per 1,000 of assessed value, so that generates 1.886484, which is a 7% increase from previous year. Collection rate, we work with the county, and they have shared with us that we can expect a collection rate of around 95%, so that's what's budgeted for. Obviously, the number can deviate based on lots of different things, but encourage all of you to pay your taxes. And then we're projecting to receive a little over $2 million for program fees, carryover, timber tax donations, etc. So that's a significant increase, and again, we'll talk more about the carryover and why that number is a little bigger this year than traditional. So the entire budget, SEPRD generates about 27% through our user fees. So, and that's fairly normal for a park and rec agency. Some agencies generate more, some generate less, but I think that's something that we'll be addressing in the future as we provide more services and work to make our programs and services equitable, inclusive, but also sustainable. And we have kind of a unique situation here because we have at least 2 communities, Deer Heart and Cannon Beach, that we serve, and we serve a lot of their residents and families, but they're not actually in the district paying into that permanent tax rate. So kind of a different challenge for us than a lot of special districts have. Just some notes about the budget overview. So kind of hoping that we're transitioning out of the pandemic. Obviously, there's that thing in the back of our heads that says maybe we're not done yet. But we're trying to be optimistic and expect that we're going to have a pretty normal year, looking back to like our 2019-2020 budget when we had a normal year. This is our first full year of ownership in the SRC. So I think now we have had the ability to make more accurate predictions onto what the SRC expenses will be, but also what we're able to do there. And I think we'll see a more accurate reflection, whereas last year we were kind of like pin the tail on the donkey, blindfolded about what we expected the building to cost us and what it was expected to bring in. I think there's a few key infrastructure capital maintenance type projects that we're going to be investing in, and I'll get into more of those in a little bit. But obviously, we have one facility that's 45 years old. The pool it's aged well, but it's still pretty old. And then another building that parts of it are pretty old, 70 plus years old. So it's important for us to kind of allocate some of our resources each year for key projects that we think will improve our infrastructure, keep those facilities looking nice, and serving the public. One other thing that I think is really noteworthy, again, you'll see it in the youth programs budget, but we have strong aspirations of expanding our youth programs, not only to serve more of the traditional programs that we've always offered, preschool, after-school programs, summer camp, those programs, but also to expand our services to provide infant and toddler care, starting hopefully in September. So the way that we decided to proceed with that is to pursue 3 or 4 significant funding opportunities through grants, with some with local partners and some with more regional grant opportunities. And if we receive those grants, which we're crossing our fingers and optimistic for that, then we'll have enough funds, we think, to get the program started and start making that, start investing into that and serving that age group. And again, as I've shared many times before, we like being in that space. We would gladly vacate that space if there was more providers in our community. But what we're really trying to do is fill the void. We feel like we have the resources, the staff, the facility that can accommodate that can build that program. And excited about doing it, but obviously it's new for us because we haven't really ever provided, well, at least in a long time, we haven't provided programming for that age group. We did it for a short time during the pandemic, but that was different. You'll also see a pretty significant increase across the board in all the budgets in personnel expense. I think everybody here that's employed or knows our community and the industry that we serve know that it's a very competitive market for employees, and it's also difficult to retain staff. And so, as we've worked internally as a staff group, we've identified that we really need to increase our wages, and so we're doing a cost of living adjustment, and we're proposing a 5% cost of living adjustment, which is kind of in the middle from what some other special districts and government agencies are providing locally. I know some of our counterparts in the county are doing 4%, some are doing 6%, some are doing a little bit more than that. There's some special districts, other places in the state that are doing upwards of 8 or 9%. So in order for us to kind of stay competitive with the employment market, retain our employees, and keep our people happy and provide that foundation for them to have hopefully strong lives and be able to do the things that they need to do. It's important that we recognize that. Okay, some other things kind of cross-departmental, not just specific for an individual budget, but in time we'll be adjusting our fees to ensure alignment with the cost recovery process. I didn't mention that on our highlights, but it certainly was a highlight. We went through an extensive process with some consultants to identify the true cost of our services, and what we found is that there's certain areas where we need to align our fee structure with greater access to our programs to make sure that we were actually truly being sustainable and serving the most amount of people that we could with the funds that we have. So I know I've been working on that and I'm hoping to share more information with the board probably in the May meeting or another upcoming meeting. Talked about the COLA adjustment, talked about the rising costs for payroll and labor. You can see, I know all of you know this, but I'm not a business owner, but I kind of feel like sort of am, because this has just been in the back of my head for the last 6 years. You can see the cost of minimum wage, and obviously everything moves in scale. So as minimum wage goes up, then other positions that are slotted at a higher rate go up as well. Getting into just the specific budgets, and you're welcome to follow along, but once you're within the budget, you'll see, I think I went in the right chronological order. So in the admin department, talked about the new human resource admin coordinator position. The other investment that you'll see in there is a budgeted amount to plan for a strategic plan consultant to be hired later, hopefully this calendar year, but definitely this fiscal year. That's a priority of the board and myself to get that done. We haven't had a strategic plan for the entire district done in about 8 or 9 years. So it's certainly time. We've grown a lot, added this amazing facility, so we want to make sure that gets started this calendar year. Looking at aquatics, the budget includes a host of positions. These are our aquatic coordinator, our swim coach, our swim lesson programmers, our swim lesson instructors, our water fitness instructors, and a host of other programs. This is really the heart and soul of the district, these 14.07 FTEs, and that means full-time equivalents. So we don't have 14 full-time equivalents, but we have a few. Added it all up. Sorry. And then, as I shared before, I think our goal this year is really just to return the pool to its previous service levels and restoration of all classes and services, including weekends and other stuff that we had to kind of prioritize other things during COVID. But I think we're on our way back. We're almost there. Maintenance budget includes 3.87 FTEs. We used to have the maintenance budget housed within aquatics, and it just kind of got really tricky for us to actually figure out where our expenses were coming from. And it didn't really feel fair to aquatics, so I think this way it provides a lot more clarity and transparency for the public to see where the maintenance staff is spending their time and where we as a district are spending our resources. We do invest significantly in the maintenance budget. And there's areas, there's lines in there for the different facilities and things. We have one maintenance staff, our director of facilities and maintenance, Levi, that's going through a pretty extensive leadership academy right now. But there's a number of other trainings that I anticipate will be needed by maintenance staff so that they can keep their certifications up and further their professional development. It's really important if you follow like our website or our Facebook page. Like yesterday we had a fecal accidental contamination, and I really wasn't hoping to talk about this, but it's important that we have staff that are trained to respond to those things. And although it seems really easy, like you can just throw a bunch of chemicals in the pool, it doesn't quite work like that. So there's just a number of certifications and things like that that we have to have housed within the district, and those folks do those things really well. The maintenance budget includes significant updates to our mechanical system for the learner pool, which is about 21 years old right now, so it includes $75,000 allocated for projects there, and then $60,000 for the hot tub. If you followed the saga of the hot tub and our bubbles, or lack of bubbles, for the last few months, you know how needed this is, but what we're finding is that there's some improvements that we can make behind the scenes that will really improve the performance of those two bodies of water. And it's an investment for sure, a significant investment, but most of you that know pools, this is how they are. They're not inexpensive to operate. The other thing that we're budgeting for is $20,000, significantly budgeting for, I guess, is $20,000 for new grounds equipment. We're hoping to transition to all electric equipment, so electric blower, electric mower, trimmer, and a new electric gator, which is like a four-wheel drive vehicle that we use to maintain the field and get around the district. We are working on the gator, at least with our intergovernmental agreement partners, to see if maybe that cost can be shared. As far as recreation, if you want to turn the page, this budget doesn't include a lot of people. Primarily it's our director of programs, Justin, who works really hard in this category to keep things going, but we have programs like Start Smart. This year, I think, well, if you looked at just the calendar year, we'll offer either 5 or 6 Start Smart sports, which is awesome. We have one going, pretty much, we either have one going or we have registration open for the next one the whole year. And it's been a really great way for that age group to interact with their parents and do something positive, and also a feeder system, vice versa, for our preschool programs coming from and going to. Like I said, we also are doing open gyms, so we have 4 hours of pickleball each week, although if you play pickleball, it seems like they stretch it into like 6 hours, because they always stay late, so you basically pick them out. We did basketball for a while. I don't think we're offering basketball currently just because we haven't had as heavy participation, and then about 3 weeks ago we started offering volleyball. Youth programs is a pretty significant budget, just in terms of the dollar. We have 13.1 full-time equivalent positions in there. And again, I shared about we're trying to grow the program to include infants and toddlers. Smaller classrooms, the ratios are a little different, so the profit may be less for us, potentially, especially as we get going. But again, a really valuable service that there's literally no other providers in the district boundaries. Right now, there's one provider in Gerard, and they're full. And you guys have all read or heard the news about the desperate need for this in our community. And then, like I said, we're budgeting. This is actually, I guess I'm hoping that we get more than 120,000, but that's what we're, that's what we put on the budget for receiving. I think it's very possible that we'll actually have more to help us get this program started when it's all said and done, fundraised.
Are there any fees in that program, or is it just?
Yes,
All?
yes, there are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we charge for those programs, they're not free, but the program is very affordable, and that's a goal of ours, I think, is to keep those services as affordable as we can. And we also, those programs are traditionally a big user of our scholarship fund that we have through our foundation. Community Center, which is where we're at now, it includes a little less than 3 FTEs. We have a contract with the City of Seaside and with Northwest Senior Disability Services, provide a bulk of the operating budget. I think there's nothing crazy new about this particular budget. It's pretty standard, and we'll dive more into it later. Special events, we have a wonderful special events and marketing manager, Melissa. And this is where she spends about half of her time. We have 10 special events throughout the year, and I think we even printed them and put them in the budget message. Farmers market is included in that. That's a pretty intense one because it's every week. Over the years, we've seen revenue from special events go up, and that's as a result of mostly of just having greater community support, so more sponsorship revenue. We don't charge very much, if at all, for special events. They're typically free, but we use those services, those programs, as gateways into the district. So we want people to have positive interactions, coming to the market, doing one of our runs, coming to the egg hunt, and then associate the positive experience that they had and look to us for swim lessons or for preschool or for things like that. Special funds, and I'm almost done, thankfully. The Broadway Field Fund, about a third of an FTE, so we have an individual that we haven't been able to hire for, but we actually just hired somebody recently, and they'll be working out there more. We have a working capital total amount in our budget of $90,000. I just share that because, like I said earlier, a tenet of the intergovernmental agreement is that in some capacity we'll be helping share the cost of a field replacement. And we're going into the 10th year of the field, so that field replacement every day, it feels a little more ominous and closer to us. Not sure how that will work. There's lots of dynamics that are going on. Other things that are kind of out of the district's control, but we want to make sure that we're doing our best to be responsible and be fiscally responsible. Yeah.
So, and just remind me the other 2 partners in this triad.
The city and the school district.
Yeah, and just on that note too, about 3 years ago, there was, from a prior board, there was a motion to drop the component of $200,000 contribution toward field replacement altogether. So I'm glad to see that possibly we're coming back to that. So I feel we kind of owe it to the community because of the promises we made in the original IGA.
IGA is intergovernmental agreement.
Yeah, I'm sure Sue would ask me that.
Oh,
She knows it now.
I will tell you, I could get up and talk about it.
So I can't find that $90,000 that you have to share.
So that's just like the total amount of the fund after the transfer from this year.
You got 60,000.
Yep, and then another 30 from this year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's total resources.
Yes.
I got it. Okay. Line 5. Transfer of another.
The SRC fund includes, this year, it includes 4.2 FTEs. What we found is that we are getting a lot of requests for renting the space, using the space. Can I use a portion? Can I have a basketball practice? Can I have a basketball tournament? Those are just some of the examples. And those are all really good things. Like, I think we're embracing those opportunities. And there's certainly been challenges as we work through the details and how to provide people access and how to make sure that the building is working well for them, but is also left in good repair. So lots more to come from the district on that. But what we found is really we have a need to increase our presence over there, being a little more involved in the rental process and then providing a better higher level of janitorial services. So that's what those funds are allocated for. I think we also have hopes upon getting full occupancy from the city, which is hopefully pretty close to happening, that we'll have a patron relations specialist person at that facility more often. Maybe not staffed like we have at the Bob Chisholm in the pool necessarily, or that exact replica model, but a person there to help guide questions, help be there for providing good customer service and those types of things.
Just a little touch on the occupancy thing. We've kind of been operating in a holding pattern as we work through the occupancy process to gain full occupancy. So this last year, we haven't been full tilt in the building. So there's more that we will hopefully be doing soon in that space. But right now, we've just kind of been maintaining.
Yeah, because Sue, go ahead.
I feel strongly that position is needed in there. Only if you have to guideline and in your rental agreements, you can, if you have that person standing on the other side and you have issues, example, cleaning the things, you rent it out in this position, and you expect it to come back in that same position and respect the people that use the renters.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, what is in front of the bleachers?
Yeah, so we snapped this picture a couple weeks ago when we rented we rented this lift to replace the lights in the gyms, and we're working safely. We're following OSHA rules and everything, but
A ladder on top of that.
you can just see the
Well, the guy's operating it.
the investment that we made, I guess, into just maintaining the space. The lights went out about halfway through basketball season, and it was kind of poorly timed. We wish that they could have lasted, but we try to get in there as soon as we can, and now the lights are on and a little bit brighter, and doing some other things coming up to just improve the space gradually until we find that $10 million pot that will help us do everything that we need.
And replace the LED bulbs?
Yes,
No
LED
less.
bulbs.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on I'm assuming like the 4.2 or whatever is, you haven't actually figured out who you're hiring? It's the only one that doesn't have.
Yeah, correct. Not quite sure, like the staffing model, I think there's, kind of still some option for us. Do we want to use a rental model like we have at the other facilities? Do we want to do something different? What is the level of maintenance and janitorial that needs to be in the building, set aside just for that fund? So it's
What did you just base the number on, like, your other maintenance type stuff?
Yeah, so I think that's a combination of maintenance plus
Maintenance and PRS staff, based on, the average wage adjusted for the 5% COLA increase and the number of hours potentially that they would be staffing an area of the building over the course of 52 weeks.
Yeah.
So how many employees do you have now?
total.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's,
In Sunset.
we don't have any in this fund right now.
Right, okay.
In the previous budget, we've allocated our maintenance staff and some PRS to be over there. But really, most of the work that will be done by this group of people is being done by Chris, who's letting, he lets all the pickleballers in, or Elizabeth, who works over there as admin assistant. She's doing it, or Aaron, our youth programs coordinator. So we really need people designated for the roles that we've outlined here to come out of that budget and not take these other people away from others.
Right. I sent Hannah over 2 days a week to help let pickleballers in too. So I think the biggest thing to understand with having these other rentals happening in the buildings, we end up having to issue keys or find some way to coordinate letting people in. But we've had a couple of situations where we've had doors left unlocked at night, and that can be kind of dicey, especially if it's a Friday night. We don't have any other staff monitoring the building. It can become a kind of a security issue too. So we've kind of wrestled with a lot of these different things to try and figure out what the best fit would be, and really having somebody to come around, clean, lock doors, kind of like you would an evening janitor to school. Really is kind of the best fit.
So, you'll see a large transfer from the general fund for this, and that's for lots of different reasons. This is I won't say it's complicated, but it's just a unique fund because of the way that the financing for the building works, because of the revenue that we're generating from rentals, and then because of what we know that the building needs for improvements down the line. So I'd like to think that we're going to hit pretty close to the bullseye on our other budgets, whereas with this fund, I think there's a little more best guesses, I guess, about how it's going to play out and work.
So what do you mean by the financing, the complicated financing?
So we financed the sale of the building, we were able to finance $2.5 million, but the building actually only cost $2.15. So we were able to have that extra part set aside. Yeah, and we knew that would be important, I guess, for some of the repairs that the building needed for things down the road. We haven't really dove into that pot of money because we wanted to get through the strategic planning process and get occupancy. Yeah.
So that's a straight loan, it's not a bond?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We are budgeting $75,000 for HVAC repairs, amongst other things that the building needs. There's kind of a punch list of 3 or 4 things that probably need to be tackled quickly or quicker than others, but the HVAC system is something that is really operating inefficiently and it's pretty antiquated. So we're budgeting a good amount to address some of those issues. This is not going to be from what I understand, it's not going to be a complete overhaul of the system, but it is going to make the system operate much smoother, save us a good amount of money in energy costs. Right now, if you walk through the building, yeah, it's very warm in certain rooms, and it's just kind of how it's always been. It's challenging. So this was sort of the thing that we felt like was most important for us to tackle right now, whereas some of the other key needs of the building, such as the roof, the building envelope, will be probably next on our punch list. And we are making the payments on the loan. I think there's plenty of details available on our website. I don't know if we have them on there except for the amount that we're asked to pay on the SRC fund. Capital Improvement Fund, the total amount that we'll have in the fund after this fiscal year is $388,000. So again, that's a flexible amount that we could use for different projects down the road, including projects with SRC or other locations in the district. It's important. I mean, like, different places call this different things, but it's important that we have some funds available. Okay, so just some concluding thoughts. Despite the pandemic, I really believe, I wouldn't say this if I didn't, that we're in really strong financial shape. I think that's due to, thankfully, to increased tax revenue, due to strong grants and grant writing efforts, and then just good fiscal responsibility, I think, by the district staff and board working together. And I'm really, I guess I feel confident about the position that we're in right now. I think this is a really important year for the district upcoming and our youth programs as we hopefully start to provide this new service, make these capital improvements and then updates to the SRC, as well as gaining occupancy for that building and starting to utilize it in a different way than we have been able to thus far. And that's really the end of my thoughts. Open to questions, or at this point, we can kind of start to look at the budget line by line, or not line by line, but page by page. And Darren and Chris are going to lead that part of the discussion because my voice is.
Any questions? Michael?
I just had a couple questions going back to the maintenance proposed budget. It's astounding that hot tub repairs would cost $60,000. I was thinking, my gosh, that originally a hot tub probably cost less than half that.
Well, they're doing
way back in the old days. But,
while they're
here. And we recently talked at a board meeting regarding changing the surfacing or improving the surfacing in the gyms because of slip falls and that kind of thing. Is that going to be included in this upcoming budget, or do we have capacity to deal with that right now?
We're working to do the floor changes right now. Yeah, we're hoping to actually have those done.
I know the budget will break down as we look ahead. And on buying new equipment for Broadway Field, the Gators and so on, how do we liquidate the old equipment? Are we able to trade it in?
We could if there was any value. There's a process that government agencies have to go through when they're disposing of their goods. And so we'll comply with that process. That gator is actually owned by the city of Seaside. So we'll ask what they want to do with that particular piece of equipment if they feel comfortable with us. I don't want to say disposing, but finding a new home for it, and we'll take care of that as we're supposed to.
Yeah.
There was some hope that we might be able to utilize both gators, but I think the gator that we currently have is near the end of its life cycle, so maybe it's better for us to get something out of it. I think,
You said both gators, or are there multiple?
No, sorry, I just meant if we bought a new one, there was a hope that maybe we'd keep the old one, but I think we'll probably.
Now, on the HVAC repairs that you mentioned on the SRC, I assume most of that money is going into the boiler room area, or does that include improvement or replacement of some of the rooftop units?
I think it actually mostly includes the rooftop units. I think, I don't want to say that we're leaving the boiler room as is, because I know there's some improvements that are slated from this pot of money in that space, but we would need a significant more investment to get rid of that old unit and replace the entire system. So I think it's more addressing the rooftop units and making the system, sorry, I'm not going to say this as an engineer would say it, but just bringing the system under one operating system so that it can work, it will talk to each other and that we can control the heat and the
Those are my questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, balance, you need to balance.
Balance the load,
Yeah, it really needs.
There's unfortunately just a lot of rusty parts and things in there that just hadn't been maintained over the years that just need to be changed out. Some valves and things of that sort. The current thermostat system runs off of vacuum, it runs off an airline, and we find that a lot of those lines are broken, air's leaking out, so a lot of the thermostats aren't registering the correct temperature and calling for heat when it should be, or not shutting off when it should be, so, yep.
Mr. Chairman, can we take just a quick recess?
Sure.
Can I say something, please? Really quickly? I wanted to comment about something that showed up in our local paper from April 1st, and I'm very grateful. I've talked to Levi about it. I don't know how the paper did this, but we had one of our frequent complainers make a comment about the safety of the pool, and Levi's article addressing that follows that, and I think that just helps promote more confidence in the work that we do when something like that, so that people can feel safe coming to our facilities. So I'm really grateful that the paper coordinated these two things. So this is hit for him, and I think we should, I don't know if you should keep a copy, because I think it's nice to be able to look at the fact that Levi addressed all the concerns that were addressed by this complaint, and hopefully the public can look at the fact that we are capable and eager to take care of any and all concerns that might come upon us.
Okay, comment? We'll now take a 5-minute break. Come back in 4, you get a bonus.
Get to ask one additional question.
Yeah, I know, that's the way.
Tracy, did we do 3 sessions last year? Yeah.
Yes, we did.
And they were long, some of them were long.
Very long.
It should be till 8 o'clock once or 8:30.
Yeah.
I think
there was an 8:40 in there too.
I tried to cut you off, but gee, Miss Chris, but maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was.
That's why I voted for you.
It's interesting, one of our members from last year
Is on
Because if you're a singer and you're trying
Budget
to
committee.
help your vocal cords, you take a grapefruit juice.
I remember that.
No, you don't.
Getting our head against the wall.
Not if you're on this medicine.
What kind of treats, how are
That's
you?
why I'm wondering if there's like a dedicated time space for people, like, then
You're good.
I can't get your taxes
It's
right.
really like,
So,
what's under the rug a lot,
If you get
you know,
a
you're actually talking about it on a regular basis.
There's like an ongoing committee, that might be good.
That's what I thought we were doing, kind of.
but,
I thought it was gonna be
you're
really-
estimating.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm a little afraid of this.
is it, have urban renewal? Is that what's
I just put that little.
That's why I was
cannibalizing some of
thinking
your
we get ahead of
taxes?
it, say, hey, we're trying to meet on a regular basis.
I would take your
I
valuation
feel like
divided by
maybe I'm
1,000.
Right.
Multiply that times your tax rate, and that doesn't come close.
So I think
Yeah.
the
Proceeding.
the
I mean,
pressure
if
or
you're
the,
at
or
5%,
the,
subtract your
the,
But like,
mediation has to come,
which is 5%.
it might be better coming from you
Five
guys
grand.
Yeah.
to their board members.
And then there's like people paying attention
Right.
on a regular
Yeah.
basis. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
So we'll just do an invitation.
And I think we have.
Oh, we gotta,
Yeah.
I'm not
Them nominating
complaining,
someone.
just, I'm just trying to figure out where the gap is.
Yeah.
My comment about looking at the, having the personnel in the rental thing.
So taxes we receive.
Right, because I was.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and had the issue there at 1.7.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there being hall monitor, and the PBL kids are coming down outside.
Okay, so this is really good. Like take strawberry.
Well, your mom shouldn't be doing that.
Well, no, I think what's happening is, I think it's
You want really take strawberry.
I think urban renewals count.
In my entire life. Right.
If you multiply your
Yeah.
value
Let me try.
times.
Oh, right, I know.
There are some adjustments.
I don't think so, for sure.
Oh, my God.
We get a
Yeah.
tax.
Well,
rate.
it's not-
From the other side. And that's gonna tell you, what you collected
Oh,
from
good.
last year's
Yeah.
taxes, you know, previous years,
She
all that
did
stuff,
do
so they
like
had
what
all
she
that
wanted
back
to do,
in.
yeah.
But,
So she was like, forget that.
no, I mean, you're
They-
still
they-
10% off.
They make some adjustments on
Yeah,
that.
she was the youngest one in that age group,
By the time
so
you
she
get
gets
that,
to be in the same age
Sure, up to
group.
2 billion and then.
I think
Would you
it
like to see the
expired.
format as they do in the.
It is.
Yeah, but
They make a couple of adjustments, so then.
Hey,
Get down to the bottom
all
and
I'm saying is, this number seems low.
I'm gonna try this strawberry.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how much she got, 8, 10.
I know,
And then
yeah, we have that.
she had 3 or 2 sets where she was 3 and around.
So.
Yeah, they did.
Couple of years. Yeah.
No, like, all right, yeah. We're done. That's fine.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
So amazingly alternative.
You got little bars over here.
They've got the convention center. but-
Seriously, there are bigger problems in the world.
Yeah.
So, how much of that is
Yeah, no, I
being paid for by the
Yeah, really,
Hello, who's that? I'm Norm Brown.
Anyway, so I'll
There.
raise
Nice to
some
meet
questions.
you. I was gonna say, yeah.
This year on the board, or on the commission.
That's very informative.
Okay.
And so is this,
Where's
that
that?
number
I sit on mom.
right here that you budgeted?
My presentation so far.
So how close were the actual for
Really?
Oh, you said CMH, I thought, but you did that.
Okay, did that all of all.
Yeah, most of it comes in by like November.
Murdoch, that's what it is.
they didn't do anything, but it's right.
So here, this is just, cool.
But do you want me?
That's good to see them, when I came in 2014, so about 8 years.
We
They didn't have that geographic, Providence didn't have the street. So, they expanded.
That's what I
Cool.
call
Although they should come, they should go visit California where I'm from. We were in Fremont, and Mallory was in the street with all the doctor's offices on it in Washington Hospital. And to get there for an appointment mid-afternoon, it was maybe 5 miles away in half an hour.
Wow.
So, so where were you from? Oh, okay. I was born in Pomona. A little closer. Fremont is. I think I've heard of it, but no, my parents, my dad did, my grandfather was a chicken rancher. So my dad owned a chicken ranch too, but got into the feed business. But, always wanted to keep the chickens around. And my mother knew how to fry them. We won't get into the details of how that happened.
Yeah, my husband grew up in Idaho, and he said they raised giants.
Oh, yeah? Oh, I have,
Sure.
A few times, and he said it was a kid.
So you're continuing.
Well, it's a question of whether you use the knife process or the hand process.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah,
He
and
told
some
me
people,
a few things about it.
My mother just grabbed the chicken by the neck, did a perfect circle, and then stopped here. The chicken went this way, and the head came off.
Are you gonna be able to make it Fridays for your?
I haven't asked him this, but.
Oh, yeah, and maybe, okay, maybe I should.
Yes.
I'm not in charge.
I'll go see him tomorrow.
Oh. Well,
5 minutes is up.
All right.
I never left, so I get
The Budget Committee will come back to order. And we are on reviewing department budgets.
we're on.
on page 41.
So, Norm, are we just kind of free for all asking questions? That's kind of what we did last time, I can't remember.
Or do you guys walk us through it?
I think we should, yeah, maybe we should, so the first one is the summary sheet of the general fund. So I'm open to suggestions, if that's kind of the overlay, should we go through the individual budgets, administration, recreation, maintenance, and so forth, and then end up with the general fund, or go to the general fund first?
Sure. I think Chris and I just kind of wanted to hit a couple highlights, at least on the summary sheet, and then we can move forward into administration and aquatics. But we're actually really excited this year, as kind of looking at the net working capital. Our managers have been, coordinators have been really frugal this past year. Really haven't spent up all of their funds. We actually move into this next fiscal year looking at about $1 million carryover for net working capital, $1,075,840. So that's actually one of the highest carryovers that we've had, I think, ever in the history of the district. We did come into last year with about 900 or budgeted last year 909,000. But so that to me that's a really really amazing thing for us as a district. So as Skylar pointed out in his presentation, we're looking at taxes estimated to be received this year $1,792,60. So it is slightly up from over what we budgeted for last year. So
I have a couple of questions about that.
definitely, yeah. Go ahead.
So, I looked, that's one of the big numbers I looked at, but So those, for last year, the number was up just a little over %, and this year it's up 1.5%. And then, the 1792 number I couldn't get to with the math. So, I'm trying to figure out, you know, I could get it to about 2.1 million, but there's still a couple $100,000 there that I can't figure out where it is.
Can you clarify which numbers?
I'm looking at line 23. Oh, no, I'm sorry, line 24.
Line 24?
This is the tax, this is the big number. This is the
Okay.
taxes you get
Gotcha.
in, right?
Right, yeah.
So if I take your AV and divide it by 1,000 and multiply it by your tax rate, I get, you know, like 2.1 or something and change. And then you subtract 5% and you're still at roughly 2, a little less than 2. So, you know, there's a couple $100,000 in there that I can't figure out where it is.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm thinking it might be urban renewal. There may be some AV losses due to urban renewal. I don't know. I'd have to look at the data, but this number seems light to me. Seems like you should be getting more taxes than your budget.
Right. So, yeah, so what happens, the document that the county sends to us, or we pull from their website, starts out with that $2 billion number.
Mm-hmm.
They go through their
There's
process of
deductions.
calculating it for you. So there are deductions in there, and so you follow that down. So what we're left with at the bottom of that document is, this is your total tax estimated to be available to you. So that was 1.88 something million, and then we apply the 95% to that. You know, we're 5% of that we may or may not see. So that 95% tax collection rate.
But that sheet that you get, that's for last year, right?
That was
for projected for this next year.
Right.
projected for this year.
But they won't know until July 1st, right? Until they assess.
Till they assess.
Until they assess the taxes, so they're making a guess.
So they're making a guess, yeah, sure. Probably good educated guess, but.
Well, they have access to building permits and stuff, so they kind of know what's happening.
Exactly.
And a lot of history trends.
Yeah.
Why they can figure out the percent collected.
Correct. Yeah. I think if we look back historically, we've been pretty on target, using that math. I think we've been pretty close.
Okay, well, if you're comfortable in the number, it feels like there should have been more than I mean, I see all the construction around here. It seems like there should be more than a 1.8% increase in taxes.
By the time they get done with all the deductions in their spreadsheet, it's, what starts out as, yay, this is great, we've got a 7% increase over previous years when you're looking at that $2 billion number, but I think by the time.
But there's seniors and there's veterans and then, people get different tax deferrals.
But I think sometimes, especially in new construction, you don't see the assessed value show up until the next year. It's a mid-year completed project, you still probably.
And it doesn't commit at 100%.
No. So
it comes in at 65%.
Next year, you'll see the tax increase due to construction the following year when they catch up.
Right.
So on that same line item, I think the amount of taxes budgeted is different than what shows up in our monthly.
That's for the current budget, 21-22?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm just wondering if, like, whether or not, I'm trying to find it.
That's the figure that's in our package?
Well, this is in our board packet from previous, so it says the annual budget here for taxes was 1.928. I don't know if you want to look at this.
great.
And so, just because it has such significance to the overall budget.
Yeah,
So I
this
just wanna make
is
sure.
like the most
Yeah.
significant number.
Well, this is taxes and other. So, basically the other, items in here, so if you look at, you're gonna be looking at.
Would that be like the one amount? No.
Previously levied back taxes, the tax interest, timber tax revenue, all of that, shows up in that, and other categories, so
Okay.
that's why you've got the 1.928, on there, that's the difference. Here in the budget, it actually breaks everything out,
Oh, there's some difference.
line by line, and that's
Gotcha.
why you have the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
When, in our revenue forecast, timber tax revenue was up and down, because of various reasons. And we didn't see that coming until it was already, sorry, you're only gonna get this much instead of what you're supposed to.
Which might be a case where it's actually a little more comfortable for us to have to be light on the numbers than to be projecting heavy, right? Like-
Always nice to collect more than you.
That's
Yeah.
Yes.
They had some bad years, they didn't have tax, so they didn't mark it.
You're planning on,
Being
tax
embedded
anticipation
in
note?
automatic.
I'm sorry?
Are you planning on a tax anticipation note this year?
Tax anticipation.
A trend?
Oh, no. No. That was, we had some trans that we had used, in the past. I think the last one showed up on, 13-14. And after this year, that line will actually drop off.
You got
So-
enough in any fund balance to cover it?
Yeah, so, back when, Mary Blake, was still our general manager, she would take out a tran loan to make the, until taxes were received, and that was kind of a regular thing. Justin Cutler then stepped in after Mary retired, and he sort of eliminated that. So now, I think we're just gonna start this process of having a good ending fund balance that's carry over for us, so, yeah, so we got out of that. That way, we didn't have to pay the interest and stuff on that loan, so, yeah.
I like a question, on administrative, under personnel services, executive director, and just thinking about the COLA increase that's being proposed for the personnel in general. And I know the executive director looks to the board for his pay increases, but I would like, if this budget is approved, I would like the COLA increase to apply immediately to the executive director as well. Can we do that?
Well, Mike, do you care if we kind of like step back? I had a ton of questions on the personnel piece, and I didn't want to interrupt because I know you were going through the highlights.
Yeah, that is kind of a personnel piece, but I'm
Yeah, but I
thinking
mean-
about how we had to do things last year retroactively.
Well, whether or not we need to do, right,
Yeah, I
if
don't-
we pay
I'm just wondering.
COLA separately, or can it be a?
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
curious on, is like, what does that mean? Like, what are you guys actually doing in terms of percentage increases? Are you doing merit, market, and COLA, all three things?
We're doing merit if the employee merits it. We're not doing market, we're doing merit and COLA.
So that thing you had up there, is the competitive market adjustment, what was that?
That's just, I guess, like what we're calling COLA.
Oh, so they were the same thing? Okay, so it's merit and COLA?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And merit is 1 to 5%, or 0 to 5%?
Yeah, so, I mean, so all of the positions within the department have step increases, and basically the employee evaluates, the supervisor evaluates the employee and offers them a 1-step increase or a 2-step increase, but yeah.
Okay, so do you have like somewhere that you track those things, like, okay.
Yeah, we have a spreadsheet that we have all of those, things.
And how does that usually work with the budget? I can't remember from last year. Do you not Because I just noticed like personnel isn't a part of the summary sheet at all. And I mean, I'm not a budget person, so I don't know if that's, to me, it's a little weird. It feels a little like.
It is on the budget, I mean, it's just housed within, this is just
Yeah.
like the overview, right?
But I was just thinking, like, if you had, for me, for like my brain, on the summary sheet, like personnel, and then what you're doing this year, how that is going to affect the budget overall.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to.
Because all you can do, like, when you go through each thing, like, you have to do the math to find the difference. And then I don't know what that difference means, because some of these are a lot bigger than others. Like, some departments are huge, other departments are small.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You like to see it sort of as an
I think
aggregate.
it'd be like
view.
really transparent, just because,
Yeah.
you know, those costs, I think sometimes people focus on pretty heavy, and if you were kind of clear about those increases, because they're pretty big increases this year.
They are.
Yeah.
So then are you talking about like an all funds spreadsheet that just lists the total personnel costs and total FTEs that you have, and then the same with materials and services and capital outlay?
Yeah, I think that's what you're
Just a
saying.
summary
You'd like
sheet.
to see it broken out.
Yeah,
So
and-
you have your expenses here, but you'd also like to see personnel for that department too, broken out from the other.
It's organized by
expenses.
program now, and
Right.
so if
Right.
you
Yeah, it
organize
feels
by-
like it's hard to know what we're approving
Yeah,
in personnel this year, in terms of the difference.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
Just another, question on the increases. So, for merit increases, are you on an anniversary date or a focal process?
We try to have all the merit increases awarded around the start of the fiscal year.
So basically, it's focal.
Yeah.
The, and the fiscal year starts July 1, and the COLA, that's going to be also done at the
For
focal?
all the staff except for this one,
Right.
it'll be July 1.
Okay.
Except for you, is that what you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, like, mine has to get approved,
Has to
like,
get-
Oh, but yeah.
everybody else's is gonna be a trigger on July 1.
So, I was wondering if I heard correctly, did I hear that the COLA increase was going to be applied, it was going to be 0 to 5%?
No, it's gonna be 5%.
That's right.
The merit system is.
Yeah, the merit could fluctuate, otherwise, if the COLA fluctuates, it's kind of a merit, so. Or it's based on something else. Okay.
So you're saying that it's gonna be, those two things are applied to every team member, or is it based on your part-time, full-time?
So the COLA's to every team member.
Okay.
The merit is obviously based on your position and like your job.
And
duties.
it's prorated to
Yeah.
whatever, but like, does the lifeguard go through performance review?
They do.
Okay,
And another question, you mentioned that you have 55 part-time employees and 10 full-time.
Mhm.
What are you asking for in terms of approved headcount?
I don't know if I can throw out a number. I guess that's never been a part of our budgeting process, like coming up with that number. What I think we are asking for is to provide staffing levels to service the programs and facilities that we've described. Whatever that number of people takes on. And I could go through and add up, I guess, in all of the individual budgets, you'll see the personnel services total. So I
Right.
could go through and ask, or add those up and see what our total is. I can't remember. But give me a sec. Get my calculator out.
I do think that might be a nice improvement moving forward, to be able to see personnel versus other programmatic costs or other
Yeah.
section costs.
Agreed.
In a table by program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Easier to look at macro to see
Yeah.
like district-wide and the percentage of change from the previous year even.
Yeah, and I also think just from a perspective of operations, it's nice to see what percentage of our total
Budget
is going
Yeah.
towards our personnel versus other programmatic and operational costs, just because we want to make sure that,
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, I want to make sure that our staff are being fairly, paid fairly, and that we're not, for instance, expanding the programmatic load or other costs and shrinking their budget, you know?
Exactly.
I think, and we touched on this a little bit last year when we, Levi and the maintenance people, and how do we determine what their percentage of, you know, here they were split this way, we're gonna work over here at the community center, here we're gonna work at the Sunset, and so, yeah. So it should, I think, continue on to all the employees. It's good.
Great.
Oh, one thing just too, like, Oregon is pretty strict about their equal, they have like an equal pay law here, so I think if you had, like I said, on the summary sheet, some sort of like proposed, like those increases actually was listed out, I think that helps you and it's transparent. Do you guys have have you written the COLA policy already?
We have not.
Okay.
So are we still on page 41, Mr. Chair?
On 41. Gotta pick up the pace.
Okay, so I just have one more question,
Sure.
and that is on line 58, the ending fund balance. You guys have been really, really good at maintaining an ending fund balance, but I'm wondering if that's enough, because that is that's your program for following years.
Yeah.
So that funds from July to November.
Well, so that's a great question, because I was actually wondering what the distinction is between the net working capital and the ending fund balance, because aren't they basically both carryover?
Yeah.
So you would almost think that the ending balance here goes up to the top line for the next year.
Right.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
That's what I
And
was.
that's my question. So with this, they have to fund their operations from July 1 of 23 to November 15th of 23 or whatever, sometime in there when the taxes start coming in. And is $600,000 enough when you have a $4 million budget?
But I think we have line 2 also, the 1.075.
That's like our number. That's like our number for this year.
Yeah, that's our
So this
starting point.
598
I'm sorry, so be the
will go up into that line for next year.
But what I think that how that number does play out though is like we have a much healthier carryover currently, and I would anticipate that even though we budgeted $598,000, we typically are underspenders. Like this year, if you look at our board packet, I think our total expenses are somewhere around 67 or 70%, if I recall correctly. Sue. Sure. I think it's around 70% right now, right? And we're almost to the end of the fiscal year. So I think your point is great. We had a conversation about that, and there's one potential option for us to maybe improve that carry over as we get to the end of the next fiscal year. That can help us. Maybe we defer one of these transfers or defer a portion of what we're allocating in the transfer because we don't necessarily, we're not bound by that, that transfer. That way we have a healthier carryover.
You can pay for maintenance over 2 years rather than one.
Yeah. In the past, around $500,000 to $600,000 has been enough to carry us into the taxes. Now our operating budget is a little more right now. So it is kind of something that we're going to have to sort of monitor, I think.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else on page 41?
To answer your question, the budget provides funds for 46 and a half, essentially, FTE. 46.46.
That was my number too.
I had to double check because the first time I got a different number.
So what was the 65?
That's the total number.
Total head count.
So that's bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, total.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some of those work 10 hours a week.
Yeah, we could go back and look at the ones and count them as individuals.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to page 42. Looking at our administration budget. Probably the only really big difference on this particular budget from personnel services side is the addition of the human resource coordinator, proposing $51,500 for that position this year. Otherwise, most of these are same positions that we had budgeted for last year. Going down through looking at our proposed materials and services.
Darren, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the administrative personnel services, are those two people?
That's a combination of a couple of positions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a network admin in there, we have a finance assistant in there, and then we have, maybe one other occasional individual that would, work out of that line as well.
Where do you put the consultancy?
It's down on line 34, contracts.
Oh, thank you.
So, on that question.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions. So that number for, line 13, administrative personnel services is $215,000, and the executive director is 97. So 1.5
That's what.
people are making more than the executive
Okay,
director.
so, all right, let's back up for just a second. What you don't see broken out in administrative personnel services, are all of the benefits for all the positions up above here. You don't see the payroll taxes, you don't see, so no, I think if I remember correctly, that, if we had to break out our administrative, assistant, position, there that we're budgeting for, that was about $34,000. But, you know, what you don't see are all of the other taxes and longevity pay and everything else that rolls out of that.
I'll admit, I'd like to see that. The budget for the Clackamas County, shows head count, salaries by person, and, the retirement benefits, medical benefits, and, payroll costs. So you can see that on a separate item. So yes, you can see what part is really just wages and what part are some very important things that have some volatility with PERS and so forth. Do you have many people that
We're
are?
not on PERS.
So you're lucky.
But
yeah, it would be nice to have payroll expenses,
Yeah.
separate line item. Otherwise, you're going down and everything is a person, and expenses.
well, it looks like a person.
It looks like 1.5 people, but it's 1.5 people plus.
But is that for everybody, Darren?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that 215 is for all the budgets.
Just for the.
No, just for the admin staff.
So then it does, like, there's nobody like that in any other budget.
It's under under the maintenance personnel services, that would be the positions as well as the roll-up, the overhead
So,
costs.
so numbers at 7 would include the benefits?
No.
Oh.
Oh, wait a minute.
On the next page.
On the next page.
Okay.
And I think,
Yeah, that gets confusing.
yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think we can alter that. We obviously have it built into the spreadsheet. There is, there's a consideration that I guess I'm just gonna state because I think it's important. Members of the staff have received, negative communication feedback from the public about their salary A, salary B, person A, person B. It's not just me or others, it's not Chris or Darren. And I think having that highlighted out, it can be.
I don't think you should. I'm just saying, you don't even have the benefits broken out.
Yeah.
I would just break out at least the payroll taxes and the benefits. I don't think you need, you can if you want, but I don't think you have to go through each salary.
Aggregated, not each individual person.
Yeah, so I do, running my nonprofit, I do leadership where I line out individuals for transparency, but then I just pull everybody's out, all the other personnel costs. into one row, one line item. But I do break out benefit, taxes, benefits, I break that stuff out separately.
Per person? Per-
No, for just the,
Oh,
the
okay.
whole class,
For
for the
budget.
employees, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm hearing this wrong, but still, there would be a way, if someone's looking at it, they would be able to tell individual salaries.
So I don't know what best practice is for districts, but for my nonprofit, and I have to do it anyways because it's on the 990s, key personnel are, you can see the individuals, so anybody can look up my salary.
It's usually the executive.
It's usually the executive director, your C-suite, and then everybody else there's just a personnel line item for everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's-
Actually, public law, or the public budget law only requires, if you look on the maintenance budget, it only requires us to do what's listed there. So we're actually providing substantially, more information and even more, which is good. I'm not saying it's not good, I'm just saying that.
I think part of the reason for me that I, again, like to see the personnel costs and break out benefits separately is because often you're judging your benefits as a percentage of your total cost, and you want to make sure that you're.
That number is also
You want to
helpful.
look at that,
When
you
you're-
see the trend on that.
Yeah.
Another market consideration.
Right.
It's also helpful, I think, for staffing. Like, for example, let's say you have 40% of your budget spent on just personnel type costs, then maybe you need 2 HR people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Or maybe.
I just think if I was a member of the public and I looked at maintenance and personnel services, I would be like, I would have no idea that I included probably their total reward package, their full package. So.
So we can just, wrap this up by saying we ask you to look into adjusting these numbers or
Yeah,
presenting
maybe,
more information.
maybe what we could do is provide the extracted data, because I know we have it, and we.
Oh, it's all broken out, but
Yeah, we just kind of.
those lines are just hidden
It's like
on here.
FICA, Medicare, all
Yeah.
that stuff, just
Yeah.
roll it up.
Lumped together, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you probably don't have to do it by each department too, just like a summary of personnel, all staff, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
That's doable.
Anything else on administration? Did we cover this, because the contract services on 34, I think we kind of did, but last year was 7,500, this year it's 40,000. What was their jump?
This year, we're gonna be hiring a consultant to do the strategic plan for the overarching plan of the district.
We included in the budget for last year some consulting.
We did, that was in the SRC.
Right.
That was for master planning, so.
Yeah,
They were analyzing what to do with the.
just for that building specific.
The new
Yeah.
building they purchased.
Taylor, where is the grant, is it grant writer or is it the foundation?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you think that's enough consultancy then?
So I'm basing that off of a couple of other agencies that have gone through a strategic planning process, and that was less than, or this is a little bit more than what they paid. They all paid around 35.
Okay.
So I'm hoping, I guess.
Or like maybe if you needed another consultant of some sort, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very true. That could be something that we have to sort of play around with.
Yeah.
So you added a HR director, which is awesome. But then your recruitment expenses didn't increase.
You saying the church director?
Well, they hired an HR person.
Okay.
I don't know if director.
The coordinator, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but then wouldn't that, I would think you're, given the employment environment, you have a really high recruitment cost.
I think what we were finding, and one of the reasons why we went in that direction, was because to have the recruitment process divvied out into individual areas of supervision, it was really inefficient for us.
Mhm.
So now what that person has done, they're not necessarily recruiting, advertising a lot more, but what they're doing is they've kind of,
Centralized.
yeah.
That's how they.
Okay, well, if you feel that it's enough, I'll trust
Yeah,
you.
this was an average based on the past several years, even going prior to this, and so, and looking at our year-to-date numbers, so, yeah.
Fair enough.
Can you speak to a little bit on line 24, why communication is decreased? sequentially?
Because some of the things that were coming into that line actually were expenses that should have been expensed out to a different line. That line is just our internet phone costs. And so, yeah, some things back in 2021 were getting expensed into that line that after some review, Chris and I looked at, said those expenses actually should have gone down into contract services instead of being up in that particular line. So, yeah.
Would communication include radio advertising?
No.
No, that will be under advertising, which is line 19.
I just was wondering.
Yeah.
So is there a marketing line?
Yeah, it's advertising.
19
Yeah, 19.
would be under advertising line.
What is line 32, basic expenses, why did that one almost double, well, more than
So,
double?
and this is just from, just kind of where things were placed before. The expenses that we accrued through our POS, so they take a percentage, every sale. They were put under line 34, which was contract services, which we felt was kind of not the best way to really kind of track those expenses. That isn't, since it's an expense that is kind of related to our banking, we tried to put all of our financial ones in one spot just to make it a little easier.
Like literally go
Beautiful thing. So, any other questions on administration?
Okay, then we'll go to maintenance.
Okay.
Page 43.
Great. Again, not any big surprises here. Maintenance personnel services, again, adjusted for that 5% increase, and plus room for merit on all of those. We did add in $750 for maintenance membership dues. Are actually part of a government purchasing collective, and that maintenance membership, that dues for that particular program were actually being put down in another line. So Chris and I corrected that and budgeted for $750 for that cost or that expense. Bumped up the office supplies by about $500 to be more in line with what our actuals are on that. You'll see a kind of a change in line 14. Training, travel, and meetings. We actually have a couple of certifications for our guys that are coming up. One of those has to do with the bleacher systems. If you have permanent bleachers mounted in any of your spaces, there's a certification that actually goes along with that. So our guys are going to be re-upping that certification this year. I think Levi may be due for his pool operator license recert, and they have at least one more training that they were potentially going to be attending, as well as Levi's participation, as Skylar pointed out in the presentation, participating in Leadership Academy. So there's a little bit of dollars in there as well for that. Contract services has gone down in this line.
Part of that was just with kind of breaking it from aquatics. The first little bit was kind of a guess because, everything was, like Skylar had said before, it was kind of unfair to aquatics where some stuff would be maintenance, but then they would just say it was aquatics and vice versa. So it was kind of a test last year and wasn't quite as much as we had anticipated.
Question in general for your fuel expenses, you've been using current prices for gas rather than something last year.
Yeah.
It was, more.
Also, you'll notice that that fuel is actually broken out from maintenance vehicle repair, so line 25, 26. Previous years were bumped together. The maintenance team requested this year that we break those into two separate lines for a little better tracking, so they wanted to see their fuel cost versus the vehicle repairs, so.
But now we're going to electric.
Now we're going to electric, that's right.
Okay, so
Well, it's gonna take
Still
a
have,
little time.
still have a truck.
Yeah, we still do have a.
Yeah, and 2 buses.
That's true.
So we think,
You still have other.
Yeah, we still have other being, district.
with low grade,
Yeah.
and none of this mid-grade stuff.
That's right.
So we need a 75,000 for the, I think that's the learner pool, 60,000 for the hot tub, then we've got 20,000 for Graham's capital equipment. Did you mention what that was gonna be
The
for?
electric.
Electric.
For the electric,
That's electric.
yeah, heater and other electric things, yeah. Hopefully.
Okay. Anything else? And we're on to page 44, aquatics.
So the HVAC stuff, that, would that be done by somebody else? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And that, the HVAC shows up on.
It's in the
SRC.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, if there was
Just another-
equipment or stuff that you, but we're not doing it.
I think there's maybe a small portion that, the staff could handle, but,
Yeah.
I think that the bulk of it's gonna be handled by somebody else.
Yeah, it's a little more labor intensive. All right, looking at aquatics, page 44, we'll see a little bit of nice to finally see revenues on the sheet. But we'll see about $10,000 on school programs, open swim, again, about $5,000, so pretty close to last year's number. You'll see some increases in some areas that are a little more substantial. Swim lessons, looking at about 18,000 more, and about 25,000 more on pass sales.
Where are we, like, why are we projecting that much? Because,
Swim lessons, I mean.
no, not the swim lessons, the pass sales.
Sorry.
The
Swim
pass
lessons,
sales,
just because, yeah, there's a waiting list.
Yeah, we've been increasing, actually over this past year, on our pass sales. If we were to go back and look at our actuals, our pass sales, we've exceeded, the budgeted amount, or definitely will exceed the budgeted amount for this year.
Mm.
So, we're definitely projecting an increase in there. That also gives us a little bit of flexibility, too, if you guys really are talking seriously about, increase, in the cost of passes or doing some adjustment there. There's some room there for flex as well, so. Otherwise, going back down through, the numbers are pretty close to what they were last year, budgeted for last year, so.
I have kind of questions.
Scott?
Yeah.
You're increasing your programs, you're increasing your activities, you're building out a bigger aquatics program, but the materials that those people use to drive those programs is going down.
Right.
So do you have enough materials and services to fund the growth that you're trying to fund?
The really great thing about this budget cycle, Chris and I actually had the opportunity to spend hours and hours and hours with the managers this year. So we kind of changed up our budget process, where we spent more time directly with the managers and the coordinators. Justin Smith, who's our director of programs, actually provided to the staff a nice spreadsheet for them to kind of really go in and put their numbers in for their staffing, for the materials. And so we just had a great, I think, a much better level of participation with the managers in really coming up with these numbers. And so I think that's one of the reasons I'm a lot more confident in these numbers, is that folks spent, I think, a greater amount of time at even the coordinator level, really going through and looking at what was required.
If you look at your actuals, I mean,
Yeah.
you think you're gonna be using less electricity
Less natural gas.
and less natural gas, and you're upping your...
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, it seems like the materials and services are a little light for growing your operation, that's all.
And we didn't even necessarily do it full-time last year, we had
Right.
programs cut back,
Could be a
or was that the year before?
Yeah, we've been open pretty much the whole year. I would say though, I think your point is good, Kyle, and I think for us, we're trying, to put the projections for this year in the context of the district. And I think if you look back the last couple of years, you'll see, like, we did grow M&S from, 1920 and 2021 pretty substantially from 2021. That was first, pandemic year, so I think we knew that was going to be rough. But I think the numbers and stuff that you see are a result of us really honing in on what we feel like our expenses will be. Whereas this last year, we were, there was a lot of, because of the process, there was a lot of just not knowing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think looking at the most recent financials are, for aquatics, it looks like with 75% of the year spent down, we're at 61,000, just over 61,000 for this category, for that, category. And we've expended 75% of the year, so that makes it seem.
Well, but they don't spend at the same rate throughout the year.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
So, and I'm good with it. If you guys feel it's a good number, I trust it. I'm fine with it. It just raised a question.
Just another question, maybe it harkens back also to 41, line 8, line 12, grants and sponsorships, and you've got that in a couple of places. You've got the Sunset Empire Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that money in the funneling into any of these revenue lines, and then where does that come from?
Yes,
Which line?
If you look on, let's look at the aquatics budget, for example. So line 12 of page 44.
That's what I thought.
You have $4,500, and that money is directly from our foundation, which is providing scholarship programs. And we, typically in the past, we haven't sort of allocated it to the specific budgets. We've just said, this is for that, this is for that, but I think we're going to try to kind of dial in a little bit more. So that's why you see that number is represented in the different programs.
I don't know if Darren and I are going to go head to head for the city of Sunnyvale, so we'll see if he gets as much as he got last year.
So, the foundation is owned by the district?
No.
Entity.
Operates under the umbrella, I think.
Who appoints the board members, the trustees?
The board of directors.
Okay, so it's part of.
Yeah.
It's owned by.
But it is, yeah, it's also.
It's a 501c3.
Yeah.
So they and I'm the fundraising chairman for the Seaside Hall, so we apply to Cannon Beach, Gearhart, City of Sunnyvale for grants. So does Sunset Empire, and we see what we can get.
But somebody in the aquatics program may apply for a grant from the foundation to.
No, so the way it
They
happens
won't,
is like,
same target.
a patron needs a scholarship to swim lessons or childcare, and so
Okay.
they do the process, and then once they're approved, then the foundation reimburses the district for, whatever portion of the scholarship that we're going to cover.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on aquatics?
I'm not saying we have to end, I was just saying we have 5 minutes till 7, and I didn't know, Norm, what you were thinking in terms of.
So we said 7 or 7:30, and I could go either way. We're making good progress. Does it look like we're gonna still need another meeting?
We can finish this up.
I mean, I feel like I would.
Are you okay with your time?
I mean, I think it'd be nice to not go past 7:30.
So we will do that, and we'll try to finish up by 7:30. So, last call for 44.
Moving to 45.
All right. Recreation, 45. Not any great deal of change here. Just kind of running through the numbers, looking at the revenues, recreation programs. That includes actually a certain portion of the pass sales drop into recreation program. So, sorry?
I think it's actually.
Oh, RC Fitness, yeah. So, That's right, yeah, I do that every single time.
Hey, they sound.
So, yeah, so just aquatic pass sales, are split, a 60-40 split between, the aquatics department and recreation.
Mm.
So, that, you'll see that number come in on line 4. Other recreation, programs, this will be your Start Smarts and, light classes, pottery, and drop-in basketball, volleyball, and pickleball all fall under that line. Grants and donations, over the past couple of years, we have received a few small grants for recreation, so we're going to be looking out for some more grant opportunities for this next year. Sponsorships, $500. Contracted programs that we have set up with like Living Fit, yoga or yoga classes and things like that. So
It's a pretty significant decrease. Is that because we're planning on offering more ourselves, or?
Originally, pre-pandemic, we were also going to nursing facilities, doing classes in there, and we have not been able to bring that back yet. So I think they were anticipating we were going to be there. I just don't know if we're really close to being at that point yet.
Year to date, we're actually under on that line. So $2,500 is a more realistic representation of where we're at.
Once we can get back in.
Sorry, yeah, we're talking about line 8.
Line 8.
Contract programs.
Okay.
At that point where we can go to all those facilities, like nursing homes and things like that, we could see more of that $6,000, but until then, it's going to be a little harder.
What's your actual year-to-date on your revenue for the recreation fund?
Yeah, I don't have that right in front of me.
Go Celeste.
Celeste has it.
So, and I'm gonna ask the same question. So you're in an environment of expanding services because you were so suppressed over the last couple of years. So you're in an environment of expanding services, but your revenues are down, your expenses are down.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
So yeah, there's just really I think a little bit of unknown there for us still. I would rather err on the side of caution with my revenues and keep my expenses a little bit higher if I had to.
So you're probably using historical data. This reminds me of our encouragement we got last year in the budget process to review increasing prices of some programs. And understanding that we want to make them affordable and not only for the elite, but I think I heard Skylar mention that there was a cost recovery process. Now, is that, I think that's what I heard, that was
a consultant.
We're going to be reviewing our fee schedules and potentially increasing them.
So as a board during the pandemic, pre-pandemic, we had just started talking about let's look at our fee structure. Then the pandemic hit and we said, this is not the time to do any of that. So now that we're finally getting kind of where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and Skylar completed that cost recovery, and we have all that debt because it was a huge data-driven project where they went through all of our things and kind of went through and said, this is where it should be, shouldn't be. Now we're going to go start that process, and so we don't have that. I mean, it would have been great to have that at the beginning of this, but we're not.
But we use historical data now, past the budget, and then especially as you go on, if you're falling behind, that cost recovery process is more and more important.
Yes.
Okay.
I could comment, Norm, that generally speaking, you can expect an increase in out-of-district costs.
That's where we want to target.
We're striving to protect in-district users, because that's who we work for.
Yeah.
I'd also list, the year-to-date in this particular category is 10,548. So 10,548 for the RC, the line 35 total.
and review with me just for memory's sake. So we also have owned properties that are ours, and we have managerial properties in the building we're sitting in.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can dovetail in with the city council and or who sets the rates for the rentals in this area.
Are those contracts revisited every year, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
more or less.
It's every 2 years.
So let's give the revenue number, actual
Actual revenue number for
recreation.
recreation, again, year-to-date, so 9 months in, 32,000, just over 32,000.
So 3/4,
Mm-hmm.
it's about.
Yeah, so
So we're pretty close to being,
But actually,
targeted our numbers for.
And that wasn't, with full programming for the whole year.
Right, right. Recreation's been a little slow to come back than some of the other departments, like aquatics was really the big push.
Does your recreation demand change by season, by month of the year?
No, a lot of the recreation programs, that we're doing right now, only the Start Smart change seasonally.
All about the same throughout each season.
Yeah, it's still the same
Pretty-
throughout
pretty-
the
pretty
season.
level,
So, 'cause a lot of what we're doing indoors still, and we'll probably continue to do indoors. So pickleball, volleyball, kind of thing, pottery. So, yeah, they remain pretty much consistent from month to month. Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess this is, part of my concern is about the marketing piece and how visible some of the, and I know that we've been sort of holding back for occupancy and stuff, but I just think there's so I'm a little worried if we're shortchanging ourselves too much in our marketing and advertising.
I was pulling that way on the admin budget, and I mean, maybe even put some of it in the consultancy line or something, but it feels like there needs to be.
And some of the advertising ones, like Melissa did secure a pretty good deal with the radio station to where we have that timeshare part, so we do see a little bit less of the.
Yeah.
I feel like
for
it's more
that.
like what is your strategy though for marketing? Less actual advertising costs.
So, yeah, what we're trying to do, I think, is kind of bring back that program guide piece.
Yeah.
And that's always been a big one for us, and we've really gone back and forth on whether or not to go back to mailing that out to people. But having it in that electronic copy is, I think that's huge. People really look to that as a piece for information on what our
Even
programs look
sign
like.
it, I mean, with the level of programming that I think is gonna be able to be available with the new facility,
Yeah.
I think there's just an ability to attract tourists, and how are you gonna hit them? Like, they're not gonna tune into our radio station, they don't know it exists.
No.
Like, so where do they find out what's going on?
Right. Program guides, actually, we've been talking about rack carts.
Correct, right, stuff like that.
Things like that where we can actually get it in front of them.
Yeah.
We did have a process of getting into those motels, and getting information into those spaces as well. I think that's just something we need to look at getting back to. So we have budgeted some monies in there for that. Melissa tends to be a really frugal person, and she looks for every free opportunity she can take in getting out in front of people. But we've also been working with the wellness committee up at the school district to offer some little snippet programs of things, and we've actually attracted we've had 30 teachers cycle through our pottery program over the past month and a half or 2 months, and a lot of them, again, were kind of like you guys were saying, it's like, wow, we didn't know this was here. This is a really great opportunity, and this is really, really affordable for us to do. So things like that are really just trying to get in front of people that way.
Well, Celeste, was that your question? I think, I understood the question to be more about, not about advertising, but about, how you determine what your market is. How do you,
That's the strategy, yeah.
so what's your strategy
for doing that, and I think, I could be entirely mistaken.
No, that's.
No, that is exactly, and, you know, you want to, you want to have a budget,
Oh,
but,
much more, yeah.
yeah, you want to have a budget for implementation of whatever the strategy is, you have to have something in there, but I'm just worried if it's, given the amount of programming that we're seeing, that we're going to increase, like, you got to drive that somehow, and whether or not,
I mean, I think in some ways you, I mean, you're better at this stuff, but like, if you had a little bit more on that contract services, you could potentially have somebody help you with that strategy. I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, did Melissa do the graphic design?
Yes.
Yeah, again, like, you know, branding and design, I don't know, all that important, and expensive.
Could you,
Because I hear that too much also, that people just weren't aware that stuff is available, and so they just.
I have a two-part question based on that.
Okay.
There was conversation about maybe a reader board to inform the public. Where does that fit? A capital improvement, or?
There's a lot more to work on, before we could even, to move forward with something like that. You know, there's so much around that little segment of grass in between the sidewalk and the parking lot. As I understand, there's a little bit of ODOT easement in there, and then,
Sorry, I was just gonna say, there's more than, there's like 15
Yeah.
feet of ODOT easement.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's, and Darren knows this because of our process, but there's, heavy restrictions on the type of electronic signage that you can have on the highway, and especially within, the Chamber of Commerce Visitors Bureau electric signage, you can't have two electric signs that are too close to each other, according to the ordinance.
Yeah.
So there's a host of considerations. I guess, I feel like, the marketing stuff is gonna be there for us to tackle, but I think, just going back to like our strategic goals and like the things I know we have to get done, I'm wondering if like maybe that will have a more appropriate place in coming months. Although I think your point about the marketing budget is probably good, and maybe it's time for us to consider, you know, contracting, farming out a little bit of our.
I just think, I mean, even if it's not marketing, I think that contract services should go up a little bit.
Okay. Like,
It would give you some
Just in general,
flexibility.
yeah, just,
5, 4?
I would do like 30 or 20, I don't know. I think
If we can find it, I
if you
mean,
can find it, yeah, I don't know how that works.
So my other question was, what's the detail of line 2? I mean, RC program, that is down. What was that specifically for?
But, he was saying like pickleball,
That one would be pottery,
pottery,
the.
So it's a whole lot of
smart.
Yeah, so pickleball and all that would be under line
Oh, sorry.
4. No, we're good. It all.
Well, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
But I think even though it's budgeted at a lower amount too, if you look at previous years, that would be, you know, on par, maybe even a little bit of an increase for what we've been able to do before.
It is. We, if you go back and look at 1920, we lost, right around COVID, we lost, 3 or 4 programs that we had prior that were, contracts with other folks. There were a couple of instructors that just never came back from COVID, so we lost some opportunity there. 2021, you know, we only came in at $4,084 as an actual for that. So 13,000 is, I think is a good number that takes kind of what, if I looked at what our actual was for this year, there would still be some room for growth on that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? No, the youth programs, 46.
I just have, a clarification. So what did we decide on the, contract?
contract, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's up to Skylar. I just think if you embed it there, then you're not tied to it within marketing.
Sure.
yeah, I think, there you go.
Would everyone be comfortable with us trying to find, or adding, let's say, 20,000 to that line? And trying to-
Yeah, I think.
20, yeah.
So we move that up to 60.
I think it could be okay using that.
The contract services, are you doing that on the admin?
On the admin, yeah.
Page, so line,
That's gonna be line
34.
Line 25.
34, line 34 of page 42.
40 to 60?
Yes,
From 40
sorry.
to 60,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Good strategy, good catch. Again, page 46, youth programs.
Okay. We'll see some, bigger jumps in revenues here. We did, as Skylar had mentioned, budget $120,000 for, grants and donations. Last year was only $15,000, and we blew that apart pretty handily thanks to Melissa's help. So I think we were probably a little closer to $200,000, as far as grants and, goes.
A substantial part of that was, we got access to, the state of Oregon, released some funds for, providers of summer camp. And, I think we got a total of $90,000 from that grant, which was amazing, and really helpful, to expand our summer camp. We are applying for another grant from that same opportunity this year, but I think there's, reason to suspect it's not going to be as substantial just from that entity alone.
Yeah.
Was the emergency childcare grants and stuff in that? Yeah.
Where would the foundation grants show up in revenues on this page?
Line 3?
Line 3, okay.
Yeah, sponsorships.
I didn't know if it was line
Yeah.
2 or line 3.
Line 2 would be like, so we've gone out to Roundhouse Foundation, Oregon Community Foundation, and Providence Hospital to help support us with expanding the services in this budget.
Yeah.
That's in line 2. And then line 3 would just be like scholarships.
And we actually broke that out, scholarships out. They were going into a different line before, so you really couldn't see that, the actual scholarship number. As the, where it came in on the revenue side, it was actually being put maybe into ASA 5th grade, or for summer camps, it was being put into summer camp, so it's actually broken out for a little bit better visibility. So,
ASA is the after school zone.
after
Yes.
school, yeah,
And then-
after school adventure.
So just really quick on that one, because it does kind of throw you off at first. The actual for 2021, that 71,000, that's when all the kids were out of school and we had full day, every day over there for all the different ages. And then that's why it's starting to taper back down just to our after-school program. Just kind of looks a little shocking when you see like 71,000 and then all of a sudden we're down to 35,000. But, we're
That must all be
cutting it.
contributor to that number.
Yeah, that's true.
In the context of your revenues for your youth programs, I would be supportive of not raising your prices
Right.
for kids
Yeah.
if you can avoid that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that one actually kind of falls under that whole cost recovery model. That one's kind of at the bottom where that's one of the bigger needs. And that's that one.
We're in what's called a childcare desert.
Mhm.
Well, real quick. So I was just gonna ask you, do you think we need a line for, like, fee for service? Wouldn't you, for example,
For revenue?
Yeah, like, for example, like, school district, when they pay you to do something, where would you put that?
What do you mean? What would it be for?
For the youth stuff, because don't they sometimes have you guys doing, like,
We did we did that contract during summer camp last year to provide aftercare after their summer school.
I think, that's a good point. So, I guess to answer your question, we're not aware of any such opportunities like that this year. We have had those partnerships during COVID, and then last summer, we had the relationship where.
I just wonder, like, if you're the only place, like, maybe you might see that more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like
And
a separate,
summer school is happening.
yeah. So I wonder if you do, like,
Like I said, I tried to request some information from the folks that were kind of coordinating last year to see if they knew, and I haven't
Do you do fee for service as a separate line? Would you?
Yeah, but I don't have the same kind of breakout.
Every one of them is fee for service.
Yeah, all of them are fee for service, so.
But like, it seems different, it's not like really a scholarship, I don't know. It's like a contract.
No, but it could be under, like, if the school pays them to do it, I don't know, a day off, right, or something like that. It would just fall in there.
Well, if the summer school program was gonna do something with us, wouldn't they have contacted us by now?
You would think.
So wait, so Skylar, where do you put that? Like, where, or Darren, where do you?
That theoretically, youth program should probably have a contract service line.
But like, right now,
I
for
think
example.
it's just gone
summer
into the
camp.
program.
It's gone into-
So,
yeah,
whatever
it's-
program
Where it
is there,
says youth program summer camp.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. But
And it doesn't matter that it's, the source is the school or
Right. All right.
Nancy paying $15.
yeah,
It doesn't matter.
exactly. But
The one I'm a little concerned about on this one is with the increase of this program and the actual materials, because it looks like the year-to-date materials, supplies, and services for this category, again, at the 9-month mark, are almost 44,000.
Yeah, and I think there's probably some active spending in that area just to match, because some of the grants were for program supplies and things like that.
You had to
So
spend
it's-
out?
yeah.
So I know, like, for this, the summer camp one that we got, we spent a healthy amount on, program supplies, the
TV
decals, the technology.
You might have that same situation with these larger grant
Yeah,
amounts up here too, right? So I just don't want to shortchange ourselves
sure.
in.
Thank you.
I guess maybe this is.
Should be a theme here.
Well, it's expanding services.
For
Well,
us, but I think.
especially for every little kid comes with costs, right? Like every little kid eats X number of cheese sticks or whatever, right? Like you gotta, it grows.
Where is like the infant and toddler, I guess, like, program expense? Because I see program supplies for pre-K.
Yeah,
I think maybe we need to add a line for infant toddler.
so maybe
care,
just reevaluating these costs in this section.
Unless it's in one of these other ones.
It is Justin, which one it was,
Because isn't there like a bunch of stuff that we're gonna have to?
some of it we
I know we only have some, but yeah, I guess we have, like those partitions and some of the other stuff.
Right.
And
Right, and he assured me that it was,
Okay, well, let's check on that.
that it was built in here. He gave me the numbers, so he said, no, it's in there, we've accounted for it, it's good to go, but no, Celeste makes a really good point.
We'll find that.
You said the infant stuff, Skylar?
That's what I'm wondering is where it is.
Yeah, because-
Within the materials and services.
Yeah, totally.
I can tell you where it is. For,
Where?
should be under new program supplies, on line 43, there should be a $7,500, number in there as well.
In addition?
Yeah, there should be line 44.
Oh, sorry.
No, line
yeah.
43 or 44?
I'm sorry, 43. not
43.
43.
Forty-three, and that's 7,500.
Yeah, that seems like
It should have
exactly.
it should have 7,500.
Yeah, and
It's under new program.
And just encouraging, like nutrition is covered for the increased number of kids.
Yeah.
Get what we can, what might be happening to our economy.
Right.
Well,
And some of the food though has to be
Yes,
provided.
and nutrition's been going up every year.
Yeah.
One of the,
So, yeah, infant toddler, that Chris makes a good point. A lot of that food is provided by
By
the
the parents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was just kind of based off of how we've had our other youth programs too.
So we move on to the community center.
What,
I
one,
know that we're gonna get through,
That's crazy.
5 pages in 10 minutes.
Oh, we do.
I just wanted to make a general question before we move on. Now, the youth center physical building, which was a contract, we were a contract maintenance, city-owned property. Is that changing? Is the west wing now going to be part of something else? Or
admin at the moment.
Yeah,
admin?
we're just kind of referring that to be an admin building. The city has agreed to let us continue using the building.
Okay.
We don't have, youth programs in there currently, but it's, we have our staff housed there and, or a few of our staff housed there, and it's working well
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
I don't know what the future of the building.
offering youth programs in another space.
Yeah, and we have the support staff that is, helping to provide the youth programs
Right.
staff there, so, I mean,
Okay.
it's not that big of a stretch.
Okay, but we're just in limbo as to what it's gonna, the building's gonna, where it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So we have to reevaluate the materials and services, right, for the
Yeah.
program? So that would mean that technically we would have to kind of come back and see new numbers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's gonna
I
have to
just
be an
wanna make sure.
adjustment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the community center looks slight increase in budget over last year, but not much.
Exactly.
No, it's pretty close.
Not a lot to report, on this one. Everything is really pretty consistent with this particular facility, so.
You got the pencil pretty sharp on the, number of FTEs for the director of program.
0.0, how many zeros are there?
Quinto.
That's a phone
Yeah.
call. One phone call per year.
Justin's, pretty all over the guy. Yeah.
Office supplies got cut in half.
Yes, office supplies,
I feel like the cost of paper is doubled.
it has, but our actuals, and honestly, looking back historically, like, wow, I'm not sure why our, office supplies were that high. I think we'd actually, I think we'd actually purchased a few, office
Machines.
office equipment and things like that over here during those particular fiscal years.
I just know that at the school, I can
Computer.
spend $1,000 on paper in a month. Like, it's so expensive right now.
I'm sure you can, but the bulk of the printing that was being done over here, now being done at the West Wing.
Oh, okay.
That would be me.
We're gonna get a fun made.
This includes Mary Blake?
It does. Mary Blake Playhouse, line 26, that's just, basic, supplies and any, incidentals required to maintain that space.
I was wondering if you guys could maybe up the building rental, if you guys get more parties in that.
Isn't that part of that it has to be
Oh.
4 hours free?
It's 4 hours free for district residents, so.
Well, but, I mean,
Yeah, it's a
maybe,
pretty good deal.
A lot
what
of
about
our
out of district?
I think,
Can't
again,
beat
that's
the
a
deal
great
around
place
per
for
year,
out of
for
district.
event.
People can't
Free.
find places.
Per year,
I mean, I
4
used to go
hours,
a ton of
or per,
birthday parties.
Yeah, 4 years.
I just wonder
Per
with
year.
COVID, maybe like people might wanna use it again.
It gets used every time we
Minimal.
keep, right now we're doing that, so we have a practice group that meets over there for Taekwondo.
That might be another good marketing trigger,
Yeah.
That's a pretty,
rent space and
I
have a
totally,
party.
yeah.
it's very popular.
Charge us a lot.
Do you think the name is a deterrent?
Like,
Well, I get a lot of people asking me, do they have plays over there?
Yeah, is it, plays, is there a play structure,
Everyone just goes there to
is there a
play.
bounty house and stuff? No.
And you
Yes,
might need to
Kyle.
add like rental space.
Here, recognizes Kyle
Turn up,
Dorman.
take out the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
back to the office supplies discussion, you know, just going back through the different programs, you know, office supplies is cut in almost everywhere. So I thought maybe you were just reallocating office supplies to different things, but your office supplies are way down.
Yeah.
Is that just,
It's really much closer to our actual costs.
well,
We got actual data.
Oh, and the fact that we inherited, about $30,000 in office supplies at the SRC.
Oh, okay. That is
So
a lot of
if you need pencils, pens, erasers, paper clips, rubber bands.
Filing cabinets.
Yes,
Laminating machine, it's,
Yeah, they paid for all these.
The problem is we never have
Can I ask,
enough
what are the
left-handed,
rebates, and why are those so high?
So security deposit, everything like that, anything that they pay in, so we have to match it to the,
Gotcha. Okay.
to the CC rental deposit, which we almost forgot to do. So we look at that and we're like, oh wait, that doesn't match. That's
I'd
not
like to
good.
get through special events
by 7:30, so
Okay.
here we go.
Wait, on which clock?
Wait,
Good question. I'm looking at that
Oh, we
clock,
have
that's
1
not
minute.
good.
Yeah, don't look at your phone.
I'd still like to get through by 7:30. No change.
Ready, set, go.
Down on the farmer's market a little bit.
Okay, special events,
Yeah, why are we down on the farmer's market?
seems to me.
From
There was
13,000 to
a-
13,000.
There was a $2,000, contract that we do not
Oh,
foresee.
thanks, we
going
own the
back.
property.
Well, that too.
Oh.
But for revenues, we did bring in 2,004 from T-Mobile
Yeah.
that we don't believe we were going to get again, so we wanted to make sure it was a little, we'd rather not anticipate and be well under that, revenue, I guess, on that one.
Okay.
So, see, a little bit more revenue on the egg hunt. Family dance, I think we shot a little bit high on the budget number for 21-22. But the 4,500, I think is a really good figure on that. Left a little bit of room for growth on that. And just so you know that, where it says family dance, that formerly known as the daddy-daughter dance.
Mhm.
Those two dances were split out, daddy-daughter and mother-son dance,
Mhm.
now combined into a single family dance. So that's that. You'll see lines this year broken out for the chalk art and 100K events, foundation events, Run for Change event, and Turkey Trot all have their own line. They were all kind of stretched up into new program line for a number of years, but since there are more established events, they've been recognized as their own line. So we are looking a little bit of an increase in our anticipated revenues this year, almost 10,000, 9,000 some change.
Why, so like the foundation expenses are the same as the revenue for the event? Does the foundation make you guys have an expense? Because then
No,
you're basically like, what's the point?
it's basically like a pass-through.
Oh, okay.
It's money that's
Okay,
like,
cool.
we're running through our point of sale system, and then we're
Okay.
giving the foundation, and then they're giving back to us for scholarships.
It
Feels like a shell game a little bit,
Does
but
the
yeah.
foundation give to anybody else?
They do not, but they could.
They're set up to do it.
Yeah.
They just don't.
We're,
So, a question about, on personal services here, on line 22, is that the aggregation of all of the roll-ups?
All the, all of that, and the part-time staff, the payroll taxes, the benefits. Yeah.
Okay, we've got one, we've got Broadway Sunset, is a special capital improvement. Can we get through these three, or should we defer this to the next time we meet?
Next time,
Defer it?
especially if we need to update the numbers.
So are we going to be meeting May 17th, Tuesday, May 17th at 6 o'clock?
Remember, I've got 3 of us are gonna be in another meeting.
We'll just walk down the hall.
But 6 o'clock will work for your timing?
We'll make our hours.
I'll let them go.
Susan, wait a minute, Susan's in charge of the meeting, and it's supposed to end at 6.
Right. Well, I brought
So
this
it's all you, Susan.
I did bring this up before when everyone wanted to meet on the 17th, so.
we know.
6 o'clock.
It'll work.
Okay, hard stop at 6, we'll start then.
But please understand that that's Tracy, Kyle, and me.
Yeah, I'm late every time. I seem to not be able to make it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that the budget committee knew that, we were offering public comment via electronic means. There is nobody
Oh.
that has
Oh, that was
opted
today,
to use
okay.
that. I mean, we're still showing the budget committee meeting on our YouTube page as well, but there's nobody in the public comment, option.
I thought that was gonna happen next time or something. Okay. Very good. Well, without, any questions or anything, I'd like to close the meeting.
Recess.
Recess the meeting.
We'll recess the meeting until Tuesday, May 17th at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys. I mean,
It's the CERT
yeah,
meeting.
please,
that
really nice.
community emergency
Putting
response.
it together. A lot of work.
Yeah.
We trampoline as
I'll
well.
be right next door. What do you do for a living?
You know, coach crazy girls too.
I appreciate that. I was like, wow, that's so exciting.
Fantastic questions. And, yeah, you know, when you kind of inherit something like this, too, it's like, wow, how should this be displayed? So,
Some of the
really great, really great questions.
People have always have questions. Secretary.
I will get this one.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, secretary, vice secretary. I don't know what's on. Thank you guys. I think I
Darren.
Yeah.
We don't.
I went down there for like 30 minutes.
Hey, Darren.
Yes.
Nice work.
Yeah,
Easy to follow.
Moved right
Nice
along.
work. I think last year we had a lot more sources of input. It wasn't just, it was a little bit from the review, a little bit from the finance guy, and this was one guy going through it.
Right, I think, I totally, I like the structure of the letter, and that was exactly.
Yes.
Chris, can you answer the answer just a minute later?
People that are looking for something, I mean, we should probably make sure that all of our stuff is available in the change room, right? But they know, sometimes you.
Where are we?
That's where I'm taking that.
If it turns out something different, let me know.
I'm all ready. I didn't
Yeah, totally appreciate it. I think that's really, I think that would, like, that should be part of the communication plan, right, of what the
Okay, so basically what's going on is that there's a group of people, there are about 6 or 7
Okay.
of certain members that are telling Rick and Jason, we're signing up for the next time.
So I guess
It's the first time that Jason and Rick have done it on a Friday, Saturday group. It used to be Tuesday, Thursday.
that are recreational.
I could do Tuesday, Thursday, I'm not working on it.
Tell Jason that, because I think this Friday, Saturday business,
Yeah,
one of the things that we got pushed out of, CERT was asked to do this bucket, program that's happening on the 14th. Well, that's the day that we're testing for 8 hours, and on top of that, they're asking the old CERT, like, please come to fix it. So I told David, I said, I will race over to buy stuff, but I cannot be I can't help you.
You're part of your program.
And there were a dozen of us signed up, so nobody.
Well, the volunteers, foundation.
Yeah, but they, thank you for volunteering the other night, by the way.
Well,
We don't have all the final numbers yet, but,
They fundraise for soon, like Christmas.
We're having we might have
Yeah. Designate, so they'll do a specific fundraiser.
I'll talk about the volunteers.
Yeah.
So they'll be good.
I think you should walk up.
Yeah.
Well, we need 30
Here.
or 40.
We could do that between 2 clubs.
Well, and that would be a good partnership.
Nobody knows.
With no overhead, all we got to do is show up.
That would be a great partnership with Providence too.
I was.
Well, Dave, that's what I was gonna say, is when we opened the SRC, we asked Providence if we could make, and they each gave us one. So maybe there's a way to.
And, I
Pull
was
those
in
out.
beer garden with my
Well,
son,
Houston's
and
up
I,
and down Broadway.
Yeah, no, I
we were at
think
the
it's
table eating our food, and a guy came over.
But who's Steve?
He is the president of the Longview Forum.
City council.
Steve Wright.
And
I
he was there with his
walked
wife.
into the middle, so I'm
They were
sorry.
running outside, they were serving hamburgers and hot dogs. He said they made $40,000.
I would definitely use that particular thing.
Yeah.
One day.
One day.
$40,000. Somebody donated both the Traegers, 2 Traegers, they donated to their,
Donated.
to their club.
Fire,
they,
or
and they
police.
have some burgers and hot dogs all day long.
Well, if we had a food trailer, I'd be in it.
I'm
Yeah,
fine.
well, maybe that's where the money goes.
I think you and I
Jason,
think we should be here, okay, take care of it.
So in honor of.
You know, and
Yeah.
I was gonna-
for Dave, he's worried about what do we do with all the extra stuff that we eat, but you know, we might have to do something with the food program.
And, businesses can ask for grants and they can
Exactly.
purchase.
Roll it up, pancakes off the grill, and use the steam there and
Well, I'm gonna talk to the chief.
maybe a couple more tables and we can put that or bins here and that.
Yeah, we can totally do that. I think that's a great idea.
Make more money than commit.
Yeah, we have a lot
The overhead.
we have a lot of overhead.
Kyle, see you. Nice job.
See you.
Thank you, sir.
Nice piece of work, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle.
You too,
It's
Chris.
good seeing you.
Maybe I'll take an apple.
Let's,